I want to bring in CNN senior crime and justice correspondent Katelyn Polantz. What is Judge Cannon's argument here, Katelyn?
Well, Judge Cannon is not actually doing much other than saying nobody's sharing this report for at least 3 days outside of the Justice Department. So we were awaiting the release of Jack Smith's final report, the summation of all of his work, his charging decisions in both the classified documents case before Judge Cannon and the January 6th case, which is against Trump in Washington, D.C., or was. It's been dismissed now. The Justice Department said they could release it publicly as early as Friday at the Attorney General's decision if he wants to do that. And so Trump's team, the co-defendants in the classified documents case, he has 2 of them who work for him, also accused of obstruction of justice. They also are facing the dismissal of this case, but ongoing appeals. They are going to court and saying, we don't want any of this to become public because it could hurt us. And so Judge Cannon said, yeah, let's look at the appeals court here. You've asked them as well to block the release of this. I'm going to say now, today, no one who gets this report in the Department of Justice, who has it with Special Counsel Smith's office, their officers, agents, employees, no one can share it outside of the Justice Department. And once the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals makes the decision here on what to do, if they too want to block the release of it, there's going to be a 3-day window where nothing can be done. And so we're in this moment where things are running out of time. Here's what Trump said at the press conference when he was told that this had happened while he was speaking, that Judge Cannon put in this order.
They're not allowed to issue the report. So if they're not allowed to issue the report, that's the way it should be, because he was thrown off the case in disgrace. Why should he be allowed to write a fake report? It'll only be a fake report. That's great news. Good.
He mentioned Smith's role here. That's a main argument of what his team and his co-defendants are arguing, that Jack Smith just doesn't have the power to be the special prosecutor here, and thus also shouldn't be able to release a report like this.
And it's just so interesting how Trump's 2 co-defendants played a role in this, right?
Yeah, they're actually the ones who are still in court because the Justice Department says, okay, we're dropping the cases against Trump. He's going to be president. But there are appeals over whether Jack Smith has power going through the court system down and around Florida. Now, no one in D.C., where this other case against Trump exists, has ever said that. And so there's a split right now in the country of whether Jack Smith has power. That is what's before the appeals court, and that's where Walt Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira, they're getting this way into the case to go to that appeals court and say, you know, we could have exposure here still. We could face more prosecution if this case gets revived. Can you please shut this down?
All right, Katelyn Polantz, thank you so much. I want to bring in CNN senior legal analyst Elie Honig. I mean, what do you think about Cannon's ruling? Surprise, not a surprise?
Well, it's important to understand, first of all, Pam, we just saw Donald Trump sort of trumpeting this ruling as some sort of substantive victory. He was criticizing Jack Smith. Judge Cannon's ruling has nothing to do with any sort of judgment about the case itself. All that she has said, as Katelyn Polantz just pointed out, is everything's on hold until the Court of Appeals can rule on this. Now, it is a surprise that there's even a challenge to the issuance of this special counsel report, because previously it's been undisputed. The special counsel regulations, we saw it with Robert Mueller, we saw it with Robert Hur, say unambiguously that at the end of the special counsel's investigation, he has to issue a report. Now, these lawyers are making really an unprecedented argument that that special counsel report should be blocked, should be held back, because, as Katelyn just laid out, 2 of the defendants, Walt Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira, they still have theoretically alive cases, and they're arguing this would be prejudicial to us to have DOJ release a probably several 100-page report laying out our conduct.
So what do you think about the Department of Justice, what it's going to do, appeal?
Well, they're definitely going to fight this. They're going to argue in the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals that we, DOJ, should be allowed, we have to actually under the regulations, issue a special counsel report. Let me give you one other idea, Pam, to watch. Jack Smith, if he runs into trouble here, if the classified documents report down in Florida continues to be stuck and held up in the courts, he has an option strategically where he can actually separate his report into 2 separate volumes. He can say, okay, fine, now I've got 2 different documents. The one in Florida is being held up and it's going through litigation, Court of Appeals, but separately, I'm going to create a separate document that's going to be the January 6th special report out of DC. And that is going to be harder for Donald Trump or anyone else to challenge, because those two co-defendants, Nauta and De Oliveira, they're not co-defendants in the January 6th case. So look for Jack Smith, if he runs into too much of a roadblock in Florida, to maybe break these into two and at least try to release the January 6th report in D.C.
All right, I want to turn to something else, and that would be Trump's hush money case. Right now, you have this appeals court that is hearing Trump's request to delay the Friday sentencing. And I put sentencing in quotes because it's not your typical sentencing, right? And it can happen over Zoom, and he's not going to face jail time or anything like that. But he's basically appealing his 34 felony convictions and this whole thing and the sentencing. Do you think the appeals court will side with Judge Merchan?
Well, they just heard an argument minutes ago. And Pam, important to understand with both of these stories, we are in unprecedented territory here. I mean, we say that quite a bit, but in fact, during the argument that was just happening in New York, one of the judges asked Todd Blanche, Donald Trump's lawyer, do you have anything like this that you can point to before? And Todd Blanche said candidly, no, this is brand new territory. Now, here's the argument Trump is making in the hush money case. And again, as you said, Judge Merchan had said, I'm going to sentence you on Friday, 3 days from today. Donald Trump made an argument yesterday to Judge Merchan. He said, well, hang on, I'm appealing this case based on immunity. Now, Judge Merchan has rejected the immunity argument, but Trump is appealing it. And what Trump is arguing, Trump's lawyers, is that while that immunity appeal is going on, everything has to stop at the trial court. Everything has to be put on pause, including the sentencing. Now, Judge Merchan disagreed yesterday. He said, no, if there was a trial, I would have to stop that, but we're already done with trial. All that's left is, as you said, Pam, this probably brief Zoom sentencing where I'm not going to give you prison in all likelihood, and I'm not blocked from doing that. So Trump lost there. So now he's at the next level up. Now he is arguing, as we speak, in the New York appeals court saying, I need you to step in and block Friday's sentencing.
Elie Honig, thank you as always for helping us better understand all this stuff happening on the legal front. We appreciate it.